Hey guys, welcome back to Critical African Thinkers. How is everyone doing today? As you know, this is a place where we examine everything under the microscope of logic to ascertain what is most factual and logically consistent. So, welcome to another show that we're going to be having today. Right. So today I want to talk about a couple of things. Majorly talking about Bill Burr and his interaction with Bill Maher on student protests, and talk about how the protest, the U.S. House members were fighting as if they are bitter housewives. That was sort of interesting. But there's a lot of things to pick out there. But before I go into those two conversations, there are two other things I want to talk about. First of all, it's talking about there was this picture of there was this video of PDD beating his girlfriend. Was beating his girlfriend, and something that just struck me about people like that is how people who have wealth, who have power, who have authority, who think that they can get away with anything, think they can get away with almost anything. They can just act the way they like. This was in a public place where there were cameras all around, and he felt comfortable enough to do something like that, to hit her like that in that manner, to disgrace her like that in that manner in public, right? And the, things like this, they always catch up with the perpetrators. They always catch up with the perpetrators, but because they are powerful, they are rich and powerful, they think they can get away with it. And for women who put up with things like this, and I keep asking myself, why do you put yourself in a situation to be battered in that manner, right? And mostly it's because of the fame and the wealth of the person that they're involved with, right? So have some dignity, pull yourself off that, right? And number two, why is someone that old still having a girlfriend at this point in time? Is PDD not married, or shouldn't he be married? So why is it a thing of, oh, someone's girlfriend at this age just seems irresponsible? Anyway, like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you're just coming in. If you'd like to support this channel, you can go over to Patreon and support in Patreon. The link is in the description of this video. And if you love interesting crime fiction novels, check out my crime fiction novel on Amazon, as well as my collection of poems, which is also available to pre-order on Amazon. The link is in the description of this video. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Ann Coulter. Yeah, we're back to Ann Coulter again. Ann Coulter and her WASP comments, right? Even though it's the conversation around that has been dying down a bit, but I just decided to check something today. I was having a conversation with Ogie, and we're talking about the whole WASP thing again. I was like, I'm curious, what is Anne's heritage? Let me see what her heritage is like. And you will be surprised that by her own definition, right, Anne is not even, she's not WASP. She she doesn't fit the criteria of what it means to be WASP. So WASP, let me just share my screen. WASP is what? White, Anglo-Saxon, and Protestant, right? So I just did a quick Wikipedia search of Ann Coulter, and this is what came out, which is very, very interesting and very, very funny. It says Ann Hart Coulter was born on December 8, 1961, New York City, to John Vincent Coulter, an FBI agent from working class Catholic Irish American and German American family. Let's pause it there. Let's just pause it there. Catholic, Irish. Catholic, Irish. So going back to Anne's comments to Vivek, right? That the reason why she will not vote for him because he's not WASP, right? And the WASP is the core of what it means to be American, to be white, to be Anglo-Saxon, and to be Protestant. Now, Anne herself is Protestant, so we can give that to her. But let's still look at this whole thing one after the other. Let's look at whiteness, right? What does it mean to be white, right? Were the Irish people typically referred to as white? Were they historically referred to as white? Were they seen as white in America in the earliest days of America? If my memory serves me right, no, they were not. So by that criteria, Anne's heritage, she's not white. Although now, they've grafted other groups into whiteness. The Italians were not white, the Greeks were not white, Jews were not white. Those groups are white now, but then they were not white. So by Anne's own definition, the first criteria, which means to be white, she has failed it because her parents are mostly what? Irish, and they're Catholic, and German. And one can argue and say, oh, the German part is, now let's go to the Anglo-Saxon part, the ethnic part. So we see that she has failed the racial test. She's not white. Based on her Irish heritage, she's not white. Let us go to the Anglo-Saxon part of it, right? When people talk about Anglo-Saxon, right, they are referring to mostly English people, the Angles and the Saxons, the Germanic tribes who invaded the British Isles, from which most of the English people are descended today. So while some people can say, "Oh, yeah, her German side means she's Anglo-Saxon," no, she's not, right? Because the Anglo-Saxons, even though they were Germanic tribes, not all Germans were Anglo-Saxon. So she might be descended from another tribe that is that's not Anglo-Saxon. So she, on that metric, she still fails as well. So she's not white, she's not Anglo-Saxon because the Irish are Celtic, right? So she's not white, she's not Anglo-Saxon. And she had the effrontery to tell another American that they can't be president because they are not WASP, because they are not white, when she herself doesn't even meet that metric. So this just goes to show the level of contradiction that Anne's statement is. It's just full of a whole lot of contradiction, right? The metric that she was using did not make any sense, except as a placeholder for white, except to say in her opinion that okay, whiteness is what it means to be American. And I know that there are a lot of layers to this. I think there's the racial component, there's the ethnic component, and then there's a religious component, right? So she's a racial bigot, she's an ethnic bigot, and she's a religious bigot. Now let's come to the religious part. Her parents are Catholic. She's descended from a long line of Catholics, but she believes that the Catholics somehow there's something tyrannical about societies that are predominated by Catholic. So by her metric, someone like her should not even be in American politics. I mean, her parents are Catholic, even though she's now Protestant or Presbyterian as she is now, but she did grow up in a Catholic background. So why should any American trust her? Why should anybody trust her views? Why should anybody trust her loyalty to the United States of America if she's not WASP herself? I am curious to know if she understood this, if she knows this, right? Because there were a lot of things that she was feigning ignorance about. There are comments that almost every US president has partial WASP ancestry, which is not true. There were a lot of Irish presidents, Irish descendant Americans who became presidents and others, which is not true. And her concluding statement to um, Vivek was that she'd be more comfortable if the person has some partial English ancestry. She doesn't have that. She doesn't have English ancestry. She has Irish and she has German ancestry. She doesn't have that. So she fails all her criteria for what it means to be a true American. And this is what happens when people just try to rationalize their racism and they twist themselves into pretzels and they put themselves in a situation where they have shot themselves on the foot, right? And this goes, when conservatives like Coleman Hughes, yeah, he wouldn't like to call himself a conservative, but he is a conservative. When they talk about color blindness, yeah, fantastic idea. People should be judged based on their character, on their competence, and not on the color of the skin. But Anne made it abundantly clear that the color of your skin absolutely matters, that your ethnicity absolutely matters, that your religion absolutely matters when it comes to be what it means to be an American. And her distinction with, well, president is different. You can be any other thing, but you can't be president. That goes fundamentally against the American dream, right? The American dream is that anybody, irrespective of your color, religion, whatever, can aspire to anything. I mean, it is possible to become anything, including president. So by this, she is saying in effect that the American dream is a myth, right? She's confirming that the American dream is a myth. It's not open to everyone. And based on the color of your skin, you may not have you may not have the ability to become something, right? So, yeah, color blindness is good judge people based on to judge people based on their character and not on the color of their skin is a good thing. But when it comes to practice, you see that it's entirely different. And the thing that's really bothers me the most is how many Republicans, how many of them think this way? How many of them actually think this way? And this will draw me to the second conversation that I want to have today, which was the thing that happened in the House. I think there was a House committee who they were deliberating on a certain matter, and AOC, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what's her name, Jasmine Crockett. They just got into it and they started. There was, to me, the whole situation, when I was looking at the House Committee chairman and the way he was responding, the man seemed confused. He was like a man who had married multiple wives and they were all bickering at the same time. And he was trying to just calm them down. He was really, really confused and out of his elements, right? He was trying to say, oh, it was crazy the way those women were coming at themselves, right? But before I'll play a clip, I'll play that clip and we'll just analyze it. Before I analyze that video, I wanted to just give my thoughts on the responses, on the impressions that I've seen so far, especially on Twitter, about this interaction. Now, before I even knew anything about this interaction, what I saw was that, there was this black ghetto ratchet woman in the house, right? That she acted in a very disrespectful manner. She acted in a very ratchet manner. She acted in a very ghetto manner. She has acted in a very low class manner. All the usual things that they want to say about black people. I said, okay, so what's going on here? And then I watched the interaction and I'm like, I don't understand this, right? Because she did not start the whole thing. The instigation was by MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She started the whole thing. She insulted Jasmine first. AOC tried to come in and say, this woman has done something that she needs to be called out on. She insulted first. And if I am having so some people were saying, that she should not have responded in that manner. That she should be above the fray. Jasmine should have been above the fray. She shouldn't have responded in that manner. And I'm like, nah. If I'm having a civil conversation with you and you resort to insults, I absolutely owe you no more courtesy after that. I mean, I owe you no more courtesy. I'm going to respond in kind to you, right? And that's what she did, and I don't see any problem with that. So I'm just going to share that interaction and react to it as we go. Yeah, so this is it.
Time's expired. Does any other member seek recognition?
Mr.
Chair
Chairman,
recognizes Ms. Green.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Oh, Goldman. That's right. He's advising. Okay.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
So this is how it all started, right? Both of them were having a conversation about something, and MTG just went straight to your fake eyelashes, and she went straight to insulting her about, essentially body shaming her, making a comment about her appearance, which was totally uncalled for, which was rude, which was insulting, which was not necessary. I mean, if you have a point of disagreement with somebody, you can go ahead and attack the issues that they're talking about. But to bring in how the person looks and try to shame them for it, that's totally reprehensible. And she started it. She's going to go on later to try and act the victim that she's being body shamed when she started the whole issue.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath
would
even
you
your
please
history and
begin
that's
the
beneath
order
even
of your
you.
committee?
Order.
Mr. I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you
Meeting will
attack the
suspend,
physical
meeting will
appearance of another
suspend.
person?
Are your
Move
feelings
her
hurt?
words down.
Oh,
Girl, baby girl.
oh, really?
Don't even play. with
Baby
me.
girl?
We're gonna,
I don't think
we are going to
so.
move, and we're going to take your words down.
I
Thank you very
second
much.
that motion.
So this is where AOC came in, and AOC was like, they need to take her words down. And I think there's an implication for taking someone's words down in a committee like this, right? She just came in and tried to defend her fellow congresswoman, right? Now, you know, I think I liked what AOC did here. And for people to, do you know what it means for AOC to be the reasonable one in this situation? Right. And, Majorly Torogoyen was doing, oh, are your feelings hurt? Oh, yeah, words don't hurt. Oh, your baby. This is what some of our types do, right? They act so calm, they act so vanilla while dishing out insults to you. And when you react, they'll be like, oh, you're overreacting. I just said words don't hurt. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Words will never hurt me. She goes on later to say, oh, you're body shaming me. She started the whole thing. So yeah, AOC said her words need to be taken down, right? And from here, you would just see that the chairman of the house was confused, right? He didn't know how to handle these women. I watched another interaction of two US senators. They were men this time, and they just went straight for it. They were not being catty like this, we're not bitching like this. They were like, okay, do you want to resolve this right now? Let's resolve this with fists, right? Wouldn't it be cool when if gun duels are brought back to something like this, where politicians, when they get to disagree, they just bring out their guns and shoot each other. Anybody who survives wins the day. It'll be a much more interesting than this cattiness. Anyway, I was just trying to make a distinction between when the men were arguing and what the women are doing now, because they did not want to get past this point. They did not want to. None of the women were ready to get past this point, and I just feel sorry for the House Committee chairman who was confused.
The committee will reconvene. Miss Green has 4 minutes and 21 seconds. There's a motion. Miss Green, do you wish to strike your words?
I have 4 minutes and 21 seconds to speak.
I think we have to do the motion first, and then unless there's another motion, then you'll be recognized again. But I believe there's another motion coming. So you agree to strike your words?
Yeah. I'll
Okay.
agree.
Miss Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
needs to
recognizes
apologize. No,
Mr.
she
Perry.
needs to
Okay,
apologize.
hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Miss Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then
Okay,
you're not
reserve the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am
Mr.
not
Perry.
apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman, the
I think it's
minority.
pretty
No,
self-evident.
you're not.
Yeah, you're
out
not.
of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes.
So this is where the second insult came in, right? This is MTG again, now insulting AOC that she's not intelligent enough. Now AOC is saying, "Why don't you debate me?" And she shoots back. Oh, what kind of language am I speaking this evening? She shoots back with, "You're not intelligent enough." And you see, she has insulted two people within the space of minutes in this interaction. She's the one instigating. She first insulted Jasmine. Now she's insulting AOC. She is the one instigating. Are they supposed to just let this slide? And the funny thing is that the House Committee chairman really wanted to let this slide. He kept just repeating as like a robot. Oh, Miss Taylor Green has 4 minutes 21 seconds to speak. She has 4 minutes 21 seconds. He just kept repeating like a broken record.
This is Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike
I'd like to
I
strike
move to
those
strike the
words
lady's
as well.
words.
I would like to
Move to strike
strike
the lady's
as well.
words again.
That's two requests to strike. That's two requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the
There's
words.
another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right.
get
Okay.
your members under
Here's the
control.
correct parliament. Miss Green, do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
I repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll strike
right.
my words,
That-
but I'm not
all right.
apologizing.
Without objection.
Not
I
apologizing.
reserve the right to object.
No.
Chairman, I
Prayer
reserve the right to
recognizes Mr.
I
Perry.
reserve the right to object.
Chairman, I move that Mr. Goldman's words and Ms. Ocasio-Cortez's words be stricken.
Which words? And you have to do it contemporaneously. Object. The objection must be contemporaneous, and they haven't spoken in 10 minutes.
Nobody's.
Yeah. So that was it, because I had to cut it down. There was a large part of silence where the chairman was trying to consult with some other people. And so, what words of Ocasio-Cortez do they want to strike down? Was it when she said "baby, baby, girl," or "girl, don't play with me," or something like that? I don't know. All right.
Spoken in 10 minutes.
Well, that's right. Therefore, defeating your proposal.
You all have.
Ms. Ocasio-Cortez objected immediately and instantaneously, as you're supposed to do under the rules and precedents
Recess
of the
after
House of
that,
Representatives.
So the first time he could
Mr.
move to
Chairman,
strike.
point of
Let's
parliament,
suspend, let's
Chairman,
suspend.
point of parliamentary inquiry.
All right. We're going to suspend for a minute, but we'll talk to the parliamentary.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, the ayes are 21, the nays are 19, with 1 voting present.
All right, motion table. Now the chair recognizes Ms. Green for 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's
So this is where Jasmine comes in, right? Because the points that HOC raised was not addressed. Her words need to be taken down, and I think there is a penalty for that. I think maybe if your words are taken down during such hearings, that you have to leave, right? And this man is acting all confused. He's not following the rules, right? I don't know why. And so Jasmine, this is where she came in. This is more than 20 minutes of interaction where she didn't say anything after MTG insulted her. Now she's going to come in, and just watch this interaction that she's getting a lot of flack for, where people are calling her ghetto and DEI, and what even Laura Loomer, the one who was dishing out hand jobs in a public place, she had the effrontery to say this woman is ghetto. She had the effrontery to say that she's a DEI ghetto. That's all they have. No other insults for a black person than to just refer to, some kind of racial epithets. Oh, you ghetto, you're DEI, you can't get it. You can't get any of this position aside from being helped by the government. And it's just so annoying.
It's me.
Ms. Crockett?
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Come on.
part of
I'm
the.
trying to find clarification on what quality.
Chairman, motion to strike those words.
You can see the man by his side is just having fun. I like that rhyme. I think this was a good comeback. I really liked that. Some people have been saying, oh, she should have been like Vivek, and I'm like, nah. Vivek basically sat there and took piss, opened his mouth to take piss that Ann Coulter was dishing out. He took it in a very dignified manner. You can take peace in a very dignified manner. Doesn't mean you're not taking peace anyway. And yeah, she just gave it back to the woman the way she felt she was going to be able to do that. And people are saying, oh, you're not dignified. You should have been like Vivek and debated her. AOCC, why don't you debate me? And she shot back with, oh, you're not intelligent enough. Is that the kind of person that you want to have a civil conversation? You think you're going to be able to have a civil conversation with somebody like that? Someone who is that dismissive of our own, of our colleagues? Someone who's that dismissive of colleagues, you think you're going to have a reasonable discussion with them? No.
You just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just.
Really? You're not going to do this after you started the whole thing?
You just voted to do
Y'all
it.
did it first, so you don't want to talk about it.
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get
Okay.
clarification.
Look at, calm down.
No, because this
I
is
would
what
like to
y'all
get
do.
through proceedings.
So I'm trying
Hey,
to get
Ms.
clarification.
Crockett, you're not
Y'all wanna
recognized.
play
Ms.
games?
I can't hear
Crockett.
you with your
And you
yelling.
don't want me
Calm
to be-
down.
No,
Can you please calm
don't
down?
tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
So you insult someone, and when they are responding, you're telling them to calm down. You're acting like they're overreacting. You're saying, "Oh, this person lacks class. They're just overreacting."
Because y'all talk
calm
noise,
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take it.
control.
Because if I
Look,
come,
Chairman,
if I
can
come
we
and
send
talk
outside to
shit
take a
about
break
her,
for 5
y'all
minutes?
gonna have a problem.
Mr.
Order.
Chairman.
All right,
Sorry.
Chair.
I don't know why
Okay.
you're
Order.
acting
Chair
like
now
that.
recognizes
It's not cute.
Ms. Green for 4 minutes and 21 seconds. 4 minutes.
Isn't that interesting that after all this back and forth, the chairman is still repeating himself, recognized Ms. Taylor Green for 4 minutes, 21 seconds. That was all he said during this interaction. He just kept repeating himself.
Let Ms. Green talk, and then I'll recognize.
But I
someone on
move
this
to
side.
strike her words for a second time based on her second set of personal remarks attacking another member.
Who? Chairman
Good
Combs.
is
Because you all
confused.
cannot
I have an
seem
amendment at
to
the desk,
apply
and this
the
sideshow
rules of the
needs to
committee.
stop.
We have to do this every time.
Hey,
before
I'm
we go back.
recognized.
I'm
Order,
recognized.
order.
I'm going to
Listen,
go ahead and
I-
start talking.
Look, I know. Look, I don't know if you noticed it. I have 2 hearing aids. I'm very deaf. I'm not understanding. Everybody's yelling. I'm doing the best I can. Can we not recognize Ms. Green and let
We
her
cannot because
How is a deaf man? How is a deaf man the chairman of a committee? How is it possible that someone who is just He's just admitting his incapacity to do the job. He can't hear the arguments that are even being made, yet he's the chairman of the job. Tell me, if this were a black man, probably hear things like, oh, DEI or CRT and all those nonsense that they usually invoke. But here is this man sitting down there and saying that he literally cannot hear what they're saying. How is he supposed to educate properly if he's that handicapped? Okay.
Those are the rules of the committee, Mr. Chair. That is what I'm trying to communicate.
Dude is so confused. He's so confused. He doesn't know what to do.
In the present moment.
We have a okay, what's the motion?
The motion is to strike the gentlelady's words for the second set of remarks, not the first, the second.
She
that
has
applied
no
to me.
idea. She has no idea. I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm the only one recognized.
I can see what John McWhorter saw, though. He'll see it's kind of hot. Yeah, she is.
Right now.
We objected at the time.
Will the member state the word she wishes
Yes.
struck?
She told me, or she asserted that I was not intelligent. These are the specific words. We can have it read by the clerk.
It was made immediately.
And it was made immediately. I am not moving
I
now.
don't think it was
I am not
timely.
moving
It was
now.
made immediately, both by the gentlelady and by me.
Mr.
Guys,
Chair,
look.
it was made immediately.
It was made
and
immediately,
you said
both by
that
the
you would
gentlelady and by
return
me.
to us.
Guys,
She said, you don't have the intelligence to talk to me, is what she said.
the chair recognizes Ms. Green for 4 minutes.
Can you see that? After explaining to him, he goes back. See this man by his side just laughing. He goes back to repeat himself. The chair recognizes Miss Green for 4 minutes, 21 seconds. Good Lord.
Minutes and 21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, what is happening with the ruling?
I object to the ruling.
We must object.
I mean, if you want to take it up.
All right. Back in order. The committee will come back to order. The chair rules to strike the words that Ms. Green said, where she said that Ms. Ocasio-Cortez was not.
That
what
she
you
lacked
said.
the intelligence to
Okay.
speak to her when, in
Okay.
fact,
I
Ms.
didn't want to say it
Ocasio-Cortez is
because I
a
didn't
brilliant
want you all
member
to
of
get
Congress. So, yeah.
anything on me.
No, we should be on the record with what was happening.
Okay, we struck the words that she said, you're not intelligent. Are we good on that?
No.
The words
we
have
need-
been struck.
No, it
I-
was,
no, no,
it
no.
was to
Whoa.
take the words
Hell,
down.
Chair.
Yeah, we're
Mr.
good.
Chairman.
Goldman, you're out of order. Listen.
Mr. Chairman, her motion was to take her words down, not to strike the words.
Yeah, I remember clearly the first time that AOC spoke up was to take the words down, right? That's what she said.
It was to strike the words. That's what Ms.
Which
Ocasio-Cortez asked.
Now, which is to take them
That
down.
is there's no such
Which is
thing.
to take them down.
Which is to
Which
take
is to
them
take
down.
them
Which
down.
is to take them down.
it's-
They've been taken down.
All right, then.
So is it that this man doesn't understand the rules of the house that he's chairing over? He doesn't understand what's going on? Is it that old?
That
Take it
means
down.
that Ms.
All right.
Green has to leave the
Now,
committee.
Mr.
She
Goldman,
cannot
Mr.
speak
Goldman,
any-
you're out of order. Now, I want everyone to let's comply with the quorum. The chair recognizes
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Green for no,
Wait,
no.
her words
no,
were taken
no,
down.
No, her
no.
words were
The chair-
taken down. That means she cannot speak.
The chair
If
recognizes.
her words are stricken, she cannot speak in this hearing.
So if I'm getting this interaction clearly, it means that if your words are taken down for any reason that you cannot speak in that hearing, you have to leave. So is it that this man doesn't understand the rules of the house? He doesn't understand the rules of the committee that he's chairing over for him to keep saying, oh, Ms. Taylor Green has 4 minutes, 21 seconds. That's all he's been saying for the better part of more than half an hour. That was what he's saying. That's the only thing that occurs to him. If the rule is that if someone's words are taken down, they have to leave, why is he insisting that she has to speak?
Talk to your parliamentarian. She has to get out.
Without a motion under unanimous consent, the gentlelady is not permitted to speak for the
Chairman.
rest of this session. And we're happy to revive our motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman. I think these 17-hour days might not work for us.
Something about working, huh?
Yeah, maybe showing up for a vote.
You have a lot to say, being that you're on retainer for the judge's daughter. Sorry, trust fund kid.
Mr. Chairman.
We should strike those words too.
I hope you brought your pop.
AOC was just busy striking everything. Oh, good Lord. So is this what they is this, I can clearly see the I can clearly see the arguments when some people say, oh, women should not be in politics. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but this pettiness is just it's just annoying. Anyway, that was the exchange. And then you ask yourself, what in that exchange in any way makes people call Jasmine a ghetto DI person, a classless person? What exactly did she do? What exactly did she do that, it's so frustrating that people would leave substantive arguments and go to attack a person's, either their race, they attack their character, attack something that is entirely devoid from the conversation that they're having. I've seen tons of videos. Nobody's talking about what MTG did. No. Everybody's focusing on what Jasmine did, that she's a ghetto DEI or she's classless. She responded with, I'm like, come on. If you were going to insult me publicly like that, I owe you no courtesy. I'm going to come back with the same energy. So, lastly, let me go over to the last that I want to share, right? The last point, the last thing I want to talk about, and this is with Bill Burr and Bill Maher, right? They had a conversation, I think a few days ago, and Bill Burr just exposed Bill Maher for the stupid moron that he is, right? Bill Maher likes to posture as the smartest guy in any situation. He likes to posture like he's the smart person, right? He wants to, because he runs the show, so he can control the laughs, and he tries to be funny. He's not funny. He's not funny in any sense, not even one bit. So he's having this conversation with Bill Burr when they're talking about the current protest, the current student protest going on, and he tries to have this moral high ground. He tries to have this intellectual high ground. He probably did not know who he was talking to. Bill Burr, of all people. He's going to eat you, right? He's going to eat you both in terms of being funny, in terms of classes, in terms of his observational skills. Is going to destroy you, and that's what happened in this interaction, right? So let's just watch it.
You don't realize that college campuses erupted with the kids demonstrating for Hamas? They are in with the terrorists.
They were for the Palestinians.
Well, it's sort of the same cause.
So you see, immediately, this guy goes to straw manning what the students are doing. He said they are protesting for Hamas. Are you dumb? Are you genuinely stupid to look at those students and say people that are saying free Palestine, people that are saying stop the genocide going on right now in Gaza, where more than 40,000 people, including more than 15,000 children, have been killed? To see that and say, oh, what they're fighting for is for Hamas. That's crazy. And this is a supposedly intelligent person making this kind of remark. And Bill Burr just corrected him. You see, are they not protesting for the Palestinians? Are the Palestinians not human beings? Also, is Bill Maher saying that everyone in Gaza is Hamas? So they deserve what they are getting right now. That people are dying on a daily basis in Gaza, right? With no objective in sight. You say you want to destroy Hamas. You want to kill everybody in Gaza first. That's what Israel wants to do. And this moron is here sitting, acting all high and mighty, like he knows he has some special knowledge that some other person doesn't have.
Why, are you?
I'm on the side of the kids.
Yeah, that's easy.
Me too. I'm on the side of the kids.
Easy to say. No one wants to see kids dead. This is a war.
That was very brave of you to say that.
This is a war. No, I'm the one who's actually brave on this.
And you can see the brilliance of that comment, right? Yeah, no one wants to see kids dead. Yeah, of course, no one wants to see kids dead. But what exactly are you championing for? The thing that you're championing for is goes against what you say no one wants to see. It's just like the time where Jordan Peterson saying, well, of course, no one is against poverty. Who is for poverty? Missing the entire point. Missing the entire point of the conversation. When people are saying that, okay, we're not for this thing, it means that they want to take active steps to change that. But when you're on the sideline, you'll see, oh, you say you're not for poverty. Of course, nobody's for poverty, right? But you're not doing anything when there are poor people around you, when poverty is a problem. You're not doing anything. And then someone that wants to do something, and the person is saying, you know what, I'm not for poverty, we need to do something. And you're like, your response will be like, yeah, so who's for poverty? You're a moron. So in this situation, Bill Maher is saying, well, nobody wants to see kids dying, but what Israel is doing currently is killing kids. And he doesn't want to do anything about that. He doesn't think anything should be done about that. But he's comfortable just mouthing off and say, well, yeah, nobody wants to see kids die.
Pat yourself on the back.
It's easy to say I'm for the kids. Who's not for the kids?
Well,
it comes down to real hard-nosed decisions. Like a country.
Stop talking like you're a general.
A country.
Exactly. Real hard-nosed decisions. Like he's had to make any of those real hard decisions in his life, in his pampered life, in his privileged life. Like he's had to make the call whether or not to kill someone. Like he's had to make the call whether or not to press the button of a drone that kills children. Like he's had to do any of that. Here he is posturing.
Got attacked. Israel got attacked.
I'm not saying that they didn't have a right to go back. I'm just sitting there going like, how do I look at
what? We're the only country in the world that they get attacked, and then as soon as they counterattack, it's like, well, we got to stop this shit now. Don't attack them. There's a very simple solution to all this problem in the Middle East. Stop attacking Israel.
Yeah, and there's a very simple solution to these attacks, right? Israel should stop occupying other people's lands, should stop, expanding settlements in the West Bank, should stop the occupation of Palestinians, should allow the Palestinians to have their states or to grant them rights, equal rights as citizens of Israel. Then, you know what? The attacks will stop. It's very easy to just solve the problem by being an armchair intellectual, to just sit down, cross your arms and your legs and say, don't attack Israel. Yeah, well, Israel is the attacks did not just fall from the sky. They didn't happen for no reason. There have been 75 years of brutal occupation that the Palestinians have been going through, and they have a right to resist occupation. They have a right to resist an apartheid regime. They have a right to resist the inhuman abuses that they've been going through for the last 75 years.
Hey, you
Stop
just solved
attacking
it.
Israel.
You just solved it.
I actually
there you
did.
go. That's fantastic.
Anyway,
all right.
We don't need to get onto that.
Let's go to Russia and the Ukraine. How do you solve that one, Bill? Let me hear your hard-nosed decision about that. Well, let me ask you a question. How is war still legal? All the shit that's been canceled.
Legal.
Why is that still fucking legal?
Would you like a real answer to that? Because for something to be illegal, you have to have the capacity to enforce it. And you can't enforce against war, or else you have to go to war with the country that's going to war. And we don't want to go to war with Russia over Ukraine. What would be the sense of making it illegal? Oh, that's really going to stop Putin. No. To stop people from going to war, you have to also put boots.
Can't sit down and talk it out. Why can't Putin do a podcast with the head guy? Like, you just solved the Middle East on a podcast. Why can't they solve what they're doing on a podcast?
You see that jab? Yeah. So yeah, he's just saying you just now solved the Middle East problem, or stop attacking Israel and everything goes away. So why can't Putin do that as well? Why can't they just have a podcast? Or why can't you sit here and propose a solution to the Russia-Ukraine issue, since you are so good at proffering solutions to problems?
See, this is why this is not your thing.
Make some hard-nosed decisions.
This is my thing.
Oh, this is my thing. He comes with a smug, oh, this is why this. So what does it mean that this is not Bill Burr's thing? Is he saying that Bill Burr doesn't have the intellectual capacity to analyze geopolitical issues? Is that what Bill Maher is saying? Oh, this is my thing. See the way he says it in a very smug manner. Let me just take it back and take it. Oh, this is why this is not your thing. This is why. So annoying.
Make some hard noises. It's not your thing. It's what you.
It is my.
It isn't your thing.
This is not your
it isn't.
thing.
You're like that guy that has a fantasy football team and thinks he's a fucking GM.
No.
That's exactly what it is. Like, why am I fucking listening to you? Like you've done something.
Exactly. And that was just so brilliant. He's like someone who has a fantasy football and he's thinking that, oh, he's the general manager of something. Why should anybody be listening to Bill Maher? He's not a politician. He's not a policy expert. He's a comedian that's not funny. That's the most he is. And almost everybody with more than 2 brain cells that come to his show just always demolish him. There was the other time that Glenn Greenwald came and totally decimated him. And here, Bill Burr is doing something similar to him. So this guy is just a hack. He's a pseudo intellectual hack. Anyway, those are the conversations I wanted to have. Now, I'll put the link. Anyone wants to call in, let's just talk. Stanley, Steve, anyone wants to talk? Yeah, then I'll just take some of the comments and, yeah. Steve said, ready and waiting. Steve, I hope you're still around, and I hope you'd want to have this conversation, right? Stanley says color blindness is forgive and forget, a reconstruction level mistake for ADOS, in my opinion. So the link is in. Stanley, if you want to call in, Steve, you want to call in, please do. Stanley says white women's tears are actually made of brimstone. Stanley says Crockett is actually a lawyer, Charles. Steve, MTG is a disgusting human being. Stanley, committees are not debate forums. Floor debate is. MTG knows this. It's a performance for C-SPAN. But why are they performing for? Why are they performing for C-SPAN? Right. Samantha said exactly. Stanley says he's chairing a committee, not the House. And Steve and the people wonder why shit doesn't get done in government. Stanley says this isn't a women in politics thing. Yeah, I was just being silly with that, right? I was being silly with that point that I was making, right? It wasn't really a serious point, right? Stanley says not understanding this is a huge partisan problem in the USA. Actually, granting all that exposes Israel to Islamists. So good. 2 of my favorite people are here, Stanley and Steve. Thank you for coming in. Interesting.
Hey, what's up?
Stanley,
hey, Steve.
let's
Hey, what's
hear
up,
your
everybody?
thoughts. Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right. Having a lazy what is today? Today's Saturday.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
Yeah, it's a lazy Saturday.
Yeah. So, how have you been?
I've been good, just busy. That's why I was confused about what day it was, because I worked Friday. I don't normally work Fridays all the time, so it kind of messed with me.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. Stanley, we'll get to you. Let's Steve go first. So tell me what are your thoughts? You can pick any of the points that I have talked about so far, and just I'd like to hear your analysis on any of them, or maybe let's start with the first one, with the first 2 ones. Didi, no, leave that one. That's just I don't like talking about things like that. Anyway, let's start with Ann Coulter, right? Ann Coulter, I'm sure you've seen that interview she had with Vivek and her comments about waspness, right? And then I checked today, and she's not wasp herself. She's Irish Catholic. Parents are Catholic Irish, and she isn't wasp. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, that's a fairly easy one. When you attack somebody, it's like admitting that you don't actually have an argument. It's as simple as that. People, if they don't have a valid argument, they'll find any reason to attack you. And those who I think are less inclined to reason are those who fall into the trap of ad hominem attacks. Simple as that. It's the same thing. I do not like Marjorie Taylor Greene. As a matter of fact, I detest her wholesale as a human being. But she didn't present any valid arguments. She just attacked somebody else, and it's like, what was the point of that? What were you trying to do? I mean, these are our governing officials, for crying out loud, and they behave like, frankly, children. It's disgusting, and I think every American should be disgusted by Marjorie Taylor Greene's actions. Whether you're a conservative Republican or liberal Democrat, equally, they should be disgusted.
Yep, I think so too. But my question was really about the Ann Coulter thing.
Oh, Ann Coulter.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't watch that.
Oh.
What happened in it?
Okay, so she and Vivek Ramaswamy had an interview a few days ago, up to a week now, and after just a few minutes into the conversation, after Vivek had introduced her with so many flowery words and all that, and she just went straight to, you know what, I really like you. I like your policies. I agree with all your policies more than any other Republican candidate, right? I think you're a bright and a smart person. You can't say that about the American blacks. You can. And what's his name? Vivek was laughing, ha, 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 ha. And then she went straight to, well, even though I like your policies and everything, but I still wouldn't have voted for you because you are Indian and you're not WASP, you're not white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. The core of what it means to be American is to be WASP, and president is it's a special position that should be reserved for people with essentially what she was saying is that
White
president
skin.
should be should be reserved for people who are WASP, white
Oh,
Anglo-Saxon
you forgot the
Protestant.
best part. Even Barack Obama has English roots.
Exactly. She
Yeah.
was like, yeah, almost every US president has some WASP ancestry. So yeah, Vivek doesn't cut that.
I think the interesting thing here is that even a broken clock is right twice a day, but this was in the other 23 hours of the day, or the other 23 hours or 22 hours of the day. It's just it's not even masking the racism. And I don't know, I didn't see it. I don't know if she was being sarcastic, because
No,
she
wasn't.
she can be snappy. She can be like that kind of
No,
dry
she
wit.
was. I actually think how Ann Coulter could be. She can make jokes. She wasn't joking.
Yeah, I don't know her that well. I don't watch her a lot. I know that she's a controversial figure, and she's said some things that are pretty questionable and meant it. But she's also made some jokes about some things that people took wrong. But I'm not going to judge her based on that. But I'll judge her based on
I will.
the lack of tact in which she jokes around is probably not acceptable when you consider the volatile nature of an already divided country. I think it's irresponsible to be joking like that, even if it was a joke. And I don't know if it was or wasn't, but it's still.
It wasn't.
Yeah, if it wasn't,
You know
then
how
it's equally as
you know
racist.
how sometimes a joke actually is revealing. You can chuckle, but they're actually telling a truth.
Yeah.
That was my impression, and I watched it, the whole thing.
But the
What
funny
is
thing
that
is,
joke about some humor is based in truth? It's like not the fact that what she's saying is true, but it's kind of a hint to the subtle, not so subtle racism that she employs, I guess, so to speak. I really don't know enough about her to say she's a racist or not, but that sounded really racist.
so when I first saw was a 1 minute clip of the interaction, and when I saw it, I immediately commented. I was like, "Oh, she was being sarcastic," and the person who posted the video was like, "Nah, she wasn't. She was dead serious." And he posted a 10-minute clip, and when I watched it, I was like, "Huh." So she wasn't joking. She was really serious. And then I went to watch the full 1 hour conversation, and there were even more terrible things in it. And I'm like,
Oh
really?
man.
This was her closing statement, right? This was her closing statement of Vivek, right? Which was just as crazy. She said, "You know what? Well, we can't really tell what the person's beliefs are. Someone who is running for US president, we can't really tell their beliefs. So why don't we have a fail-safe mechanism, right? I would feel much more comfortable if the person has some English or British blood." That was her fail-safe mechanism. That if the person running for president has some English or British blood. That was her conclusion to that interview. So she wasn't joking in any sense. It was not joke. It wasn't sarcastic. She was dead serious. And I'm like, wow.
As if any of that would have anything to do with someone's ability to govern. That makes no freaking sense to me. Like
No
it's
sense whatsoever.
it's this weird, I don't know how to explain it in my head, but it seems very ad hominem, but in a weird kind of twisted way, where it's like, well, you're not white enough, is what she's basically telling Vivek. And Vivek had some really great policies. He had some really great ideas. I wish he wouldn't have dropped out, because I think he would have challenged the status quo quite well. The best thing he could have done as an American was to stay in and lose, because it could have given contrast to the dialogue within the Conservative Party.
But I don't trust Vivek. I think I have reasons to be just as suspicious of him as Anne was, right? But Anne's own is more racist. But I don't trust Vivek. I think he's a phony fraud, right? He tries to just take, for example, he tried to appropriate Christianity, right? With all this, oh, God is real. You're Hindu. I mean, come out and say your faith. But you were saying all these things that Christians would agree with just to get them to vote for you. Evangelical Christians would agree with. And he was saying all those things that conservatives would agree with. Oh, he even started this whole thing of black on Asian crime, just to mirror black on white crime. So he can have a way with some racist conservatives and all that. So all those things he was doing, to me, I felt this guy wasn't genuine. He was just acting. He was playing a certain character. So I don't trust him. And
well, I mean, at the end of the day, he has to get elected, so he's going to do whatever he can to do that.
Yeah,
he's got to appeal to a large audience, and he did have a fairly large audience. But I mean, anybody who goes into politics, it's not like I want to say they're immediately untrustworthy, but I already doubt their intentions. Who wants to get into politics these days?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't get in it to make a change, because you know what the rules are, you know how the game is played, and there's no way one person is going to be changing that entire system. Whether you're running for president or not, you're still limited, and your hands are still tied behind your back due to constitutional law and all sorts of other problems. But Vivek was a very smooth talker, and he was. I praise him for sitting there and listening to Ann Coulter's remarks about his skin color, because I would have, if I was him, I would have lost my shit. But it's just, I don't know what to say other than it's. I'm surprised Vivek actually did. I remember what I was going to say. Vivek actually was confronted by a couple of more liberal-minded people, and he did a really good job listening to them. I didn't like his opinions, but that doesn't mean anything. I can not like someone's opinions. It doesn't mean anything about who they are as a person.
Yeah.
But I praise him because he's done a lot more to listen to different voices than almost any other conservative politician that I've seen. So I was really rooting for him to make it, as far as having a viable conservative that could have really put a new light on the Conservative Party, for them to get behind, because running with Trump has been so divisive, even for the Conservative Party, that nobody wants to touch him with a 10-foot pole, or they want to hug his nuts. It's one of those. There's no in between. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So Stanley,
I don't know how Stanley feels about that, but that's kind of how I see it.
Well, number one, Vivek, that he didn't push back pretty much explains Vivek like cake to me. He was easily sliced and he was eaten. He did not push back. He basically agreed with Coulter, and then changed the subject and started talking about Christianity and shared values and all this sort of stuff. Number two, Trump is not a conservative. MAGA is not a conservative movement. The conservatives do not like MAGA. Vivek showed up at Trump's trial, I don't know, it was earlier this week. Vivek, I can kind of agree with the whole Vivek wants to be vice president or something like that. But a whole lot of people agree with Coulter's point of view. Vivek will never be vice president because vice president means you could be president and Trump is old. That's not going to happen. So I'm confused in a bunch of these responses. Vivek is as racist as Ann Coulter. That's my opinion. And the second thing, I think who was it that said, I don't want to say it was Mark Twain. It was somebody who said, when people tell you stuff, believe them, even if it's a joke. They are actually for real when they say it, even if it's a joke. And I believe Ann Coulter, I believe Vivek, that, you know what? Vivek would be okay with white supremacy. He's pretty much embraced it, in my opinion. And I'm going to make a whole weird moral argument, and I'm not very religious, but believe people when they believe what people say. Hear the politicians. Read about the politicians. If you don't know who Ann Coulter is, she's been around for like 20 or 30 years. I know who Ann Coulter is. If you dabble in politics or even pay attention to it, Coulter is very influential. She's part of why Trump didn't win in 2020. She was against Trump, if you'll recall.
Yeah.
Much like Charles Krauthammer, I believe. Charles
Well,
Krauthammer
you know
was
what? Krauthammer,
Trump, but he was very influential until he
I
passed
can
away.
honestly tell you, and Krauthammer had many, he was just prickly. I never thought Krauthammer was as racist as, say, an Ann Coulter.
Yeah, I don't
He
think
was
he
a
was racist
he
at all.
was a, he was a conservative.
Yeah.
Vivek is not a conservative. Trump is not a conservative. MAGA is not a conservative movement.
Okay, I see
It
what
is
you're
a
doing.
it is a grievance party.
I gotcha. It's an opposition to the left's grievances. Oh, I love
You know what? The left is as bad. You know me, Steve. I don't like extremes. Period.
Yeah.
So the left is not necessarily. It's why the left. If you ever go and you listen to Revolutionary Black Network, the far left, the Marxists, who don't get Marx right, by the way, you never hear the DSA types, the progressives, they never criticize Trump. They criticize Biden, who's more a centrist. Trump is not a centrist, but they never criticize his policies. And I heard a woman, I'm not going to say her name, but she has a YouTube show. And I actually kind of approached her about this. She said, at least we know who the Republicans are. Her thing, and she's a progressive, the Democrats kind of cloud their racism behind pretty rhetoric. To me, I don't see the difference. Extremes are extremes. So,
yeah.
Oh, and then my second point is, I'm not sure I believe in ad hominems anymore. If people don't have an argument, debate boy tactics are how they cloud their non-arguments. They talk about fallacies and, oh, you're making some sort of fallacy. No, you just don't have an argument, and now, this is going to be like technical. We're going to go back to high school debate team because you don't have an argument and you need to win your argument on technicalities. that doesn't impress me.
Well, sometimes
So,
you don't need to win. You just need to disprove the other person's argument.
no, I disagree. Disproving a bad point sometimes isn't enough because we got a lot of bad points. You could start with 1789. Shoot, there are bad points in the U.S. It approved slavery. It allowed for it. It compromised on it. In my opinion, that was a bad point, but it's the law of the land.
Well, that doesn't necessarily say anything about the statement that I made. Because you can ask
because I
someone.
wasn't really concentrating on your statement.
Yeah, because I mean, if someone's
I'm saying that bad points are endemic. Sometimes calling them out bluntly is more effective than proving an argument wrong. Some things are a priori wrong.
right, but when you let's say someone has a what you would consider a bad idea, so to speak. My responsibility, as far as I'm concerned, is to not make a statement. It's to find out what they actually truly believe. And if I ask them enough questions, and I ask them good quality questions, and they can come to the conclusion on their own that it's a bad idea, then I've won, as far as I'm concerned.
You know what? I don't have the 250 years that you obviously do.
No, it's more like a couple of years. But even then, I'm still not that great at it. But, yeah. What next, Charles?
Yeah, well, nothing really much. I've covered most of what I wanted to talk about with Vivek and with the MTG interaction, and I think the last one was Bill Burr and Bill Maher. We haven't talked about that. What do you guys think of that interaction?
Well, I went first last time, so let Stanley go first this time.
Stanley.
I think it's a Gordian knot, and I think both sides are just horrible. And Bill Burr, if you noticed, he was kind of as generic as Maher was with the I'm for the kids. However, the interesting thing, and in my opinion, he got to the crux of it. Let's not worry about ourselves. How are the kids doing?
Yeah.
And he wasn't just talking about kids on college campuses, because I'm going to be honest with you, the kids on college campuses are privileged. The kids in Gaza are not. They're running for their lives. So, I just think that both sides are equally wrong. And I don't think it's going to be October 7th and the response to October 7th. And I noticed today that, Israel did go into Rafah. They found 10 new tunnel entrances and took out some Hamas infrastructure. And this is a New York Times thing that I read. That's good. They proved themselves right. There were things that needed to be addressed in Rafah. Good, but it's not going to solve the problem. At the end of this, we're going to have the same problem that we had pre-October 7th.
Exactly. So when you say that's good, it's not good because it's just cosmetic. It doesn't change anything. Right?
Absolutely.
Hamas is going to build more tunnels, destroy the ones in Rafah. They're going somewhere else to build more tunnels.
But my point, Charles, is Israel saying that they discovered this, that, or the other, and took out infrastructure. Score one for the not so good guys. It's good for Israel. Now they can come back and go, I told you so. There was a problem. But the problem pre-existed October 7th. It's a Gordian knot because a one-state solution is not going to solve the problem. A one-state solution giving Palestinians equal citizenship is going to expose Israel to Islamism. The most vulnerable societies on earth are open societies.
Yeah. I would say a one-state
just
solution
how
would
it
work.
goes.
I would say a one-state solution would work in Israel the same way it's worked everywhere else, badly, but it will work. It just comes at the cost of human life.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Steve. I actually agree with you on that. And man, I feel so bad saying this, but America's an open society, and people are slaughtered every day. How bad are a bunch of the things that actually have happened over the last 400 years in America? And I'm gonna sound like a MAGA-ite. It's the price of freedom.
I disagree with the both of you.
Okay.
I think.
Well, now I'm interested.
Yeah. So, but first of all, I think that before I address that point, let's look at the alternative, which Hamas and most of the Palestinians have also agreed to, which is a two-state based on the 1967 borders, which Israel has vehemently kicked against. Right. Every year, I think in the United States, there is a resolution for a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders. Both the U.S. and Israel are the only ones who kick against that and they veto it. So that just kills that other option. I think that the one-state solution is possible. I don't think they're still going to have, even right now in Israel, they're having issues, even with the fact that Jews are the overwhelming majority. They're having political turmoils. They're having rise of ultra-Orthodox religious Jews who are causing problems as well. So the religious element is always going to be there. But I will
Okay,
look
well,
at
one thing you get wrong, if there's a one-state solution, Jews will not be the majority.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that they will not maintain political power.
Okay, and that's problematic.
It's not so easy to lose political power, and it's
exactly.
If you look at places like South Africa, if you look at places like Rwanda, who have had similar issues, I think they have done pretty well with dousing those religious, those ethnic or whatever tensions that was responsible for the conflict in the first place. In Rwanda, for example, the Tutsis that launched the assault from Uganda, they were kicked out of their country before, but then they came back, and then the genocide of Rwanda happened, and there were massacres and all that. And the current president is a rebel who was a former rebel leader. But the country is pretty fine. Those tensions are no longer there. Yeah, for now.
That's where I disagree with you. Sublimation is not the same thing as it's not there. It's sublimated.
So the other proof that the one-state solution can work is what Israel usually says. Oh, we're a multi-ethnic society because we have 20% of our population are Arab Muslims, and they're not causing any problems for us. And then you ask yourself, why are they not causing any problems? The reason they are not is because they have what other Palestinians are fighting for. They have equal rights and they have statehood.
Totally disagree.
It's very, very possible that once the Palestinians get what they truly want, which is a state, that all those tensions will melt away. It is really,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you go and you look at the Knesset and basically political power, Israel, I can't tell that there's equal power and equal rights.
You can
And I
tell the
looked it
difference
up.
between.
I looked it up the other day, and I don't remember the exact percentages, but the Knesset is overwhelmingly not Arab. So there's no power sharing in Israel currently.
Of course not. There's not.
Okay, then if there's not power sharing, how are we talking about equal rights? You can't have
Well,
equal rights without power being shared, can you?
there are levels to it.
Okay, well, then you just basically proved. So, are
But
you saying,
there
much
is
like
no equal.
Amy
Wait,
Wax, the
there in the US.
Palestinians have to earn the right to be equal?
Is there equal power in the US currently?
No, and
Is there
that's a
equal rights?
huge problem.
Is
That's
there
a
equal
huge
rights?
problem. No, and that's why I'm not for colorblindness. There's
But
not equal rights.
that's even though quote unquote you're saying there is not equal rights, but most people in the US still live in a fairly fair society.
Okay. Well, let me just make a point here. Good enough is basically what you're promoting. It's good enough.
It's a starting
Let's
point.
accept it. That's a very Glenn Lowry point of view.
It's a
And
starting point.
I don't. Okay, what's your point?
It's a start. Good enough is a starting point. It can't be perfect, but
Okay,
it's good
dude.
enough to start
Now,
improving on.
Israel hasn't been around as long as the United States has. But and this is a whole like branch of political philosophy within the United States. When is good enough not good enough? Black people in America, ever since, let's just go back to like, when was that Atlanta exhibition speech? Like 1900 something or another. Black Americans have been pretty much, let's just start at 1789. That's 230 years. Then my whole point about, you know, post Reconstruction. And that's why I think that color blindness is just like a Reconstruction mistake. Black people were perfectly happy. In my example is the Sea Islands of South Carolina. 40 acres and a mule would have been good enough, but it was taken away. So when does good enough become bigger than just good enough? 200 years?
Your point is basically do nothing because it's not.
No,
perfect.
I think your point is do nothing. It's good enough. That seems to be your point.
No, my point is good enough is a starting point, and after which you will start
and
improving.
when is the starting point? Dude, the starting point, in my opinion, in the United States was 1865.
No, we're not talking about the United States. We're talking about
Right.
Israel.
Well, okay. I'm okay with that because I did draw the distinction. Israel has not been around as long. I accept that. So let's put it on paper. Israel's not willing to do that.
I think Israel's not willing to have equal representation. They can say equal rights all day, and they might on paper, but if the representation isn't there, it doesn't do anything.
Means if you don't have equal representation, and I don't mean like 50-50, if you don't have equal representation, your rights are not represented.
Right. That's my point.
And
until they reach
Israel,
that kind of level of parity, then it's an unrealistic and unachievable goal to say that one party has equal rights just purely because they have the same rights as every other standard person in that
let's
country.
not even do, and I don't mean to interrupt because your point is valid. Let's just say equal opportunity. Let's not even talk about rights. Let's assume rights are there. Is a Palestinian running for a particular office, does he or she have the same opportunity as an Israeli man who was a politician? My answer is no. And let's go back to Crockett and MTG. MTG, well, let me make my point. Even in America, I saw MTG with a major advantage over Crockett, who is way more qualified to be a representative than MTG is. MTG won that. She got away with a lot. So even in the arsenal of freedom, Israel is a baby compared to the United States. That they're not getting it right might be understandable. That the United States is not getting it right concerns me. Who are we to tell Israel what to do when we're not getting it right ourselves?
Steve, you want to respond to that?
Well, the reason why I say the equal representation is an issue here is because there's, to some degree, Stanley is right. The issue that I have here is that when you take into account, the opportunity, right, the equal opportunity, there's no way that you can enforce anything else otherwise, right? You have to do the work, and it takes time. The United States still isn't perfect, but we've come a long way in 250 years, and we're still working. It's this country is a work in progress. Any country is going to be a work in progress. Exactly. But at some point in time, people on one or both sides of that conflict need to come to a resolution where they're like, okay, it's not just about the ideology anymore. There's innocent people here dying, and we've got to do something to stop this. This is untenable. It's an untenable, unending warfare that is going to cost us literally everything. What are we going to be after this is done? Right? The only possible outcome that either of these two have not even remotely addressed here is that it's going to require the obliteration of one or both of them.
And Israel being obliterated is not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. There's too many allies there. That's the only reason why Israel stood for as long as it has, is because of the number of allies that it retains.
And the Palestinians being obliterated is not going to happen either.
I don't think so either. At least I hope it doesn't.
So it's just going to be a loop of October 7th and post October 7th over and over and over and over again.
Yes. Like it has been for decades and probably centuries. Yes.
Well, October 7th, the sun has not set on October 7th yet. We're still in October 7th.
True.
Anyway,
I want to make a quick point. The interesting thing is that the current prime minister of Israel, dude, what was he doing? He actually funded this sort of thing. That is the most interesting point to me. And it's not given enough daylight. Bibi Netanyahu is complicit in October 7th. That's my opinion.
Israel needs October 7th to justify its existence.
See, I don't agree with that.
They need the radical elements in the Palestinians to justify their existence, because once it becomes a peaceful movement of, just equal rights and all that, then Israel loses more power. There is more pressure from the international community to, for them to accede to the requests of the Palestinians. But if the Palestinians are seen as terrorists, crazy extremists, then there is always going to be that support from the international community that Israel needs to defend itself against these crazy people. So that's why.
Here's the bottom line, though.
That's why, from a
Hamas exists as opposition to the PLO or PLA now.
Yep.
Basically, they didn't want a two-state solution, and you're right, Charles. Hey, take the skinheads bowling. We know they're going to disrupt the whole bowling alley. It's an oblique reference to a song. Take the skinheads bowling. We know that they're going to be disruptive at some point. That's what Netanyahu did. He flirted with extremism, and people died for his mistakes.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys want to talk about anything else? Anything particularly interesting you want us to talk about?
Yeah, how you been, Steve? I haven't talked to you in a dog's age.
Yeah.
Totally off politics. What you been up to?
Yeah. Well, focusing on the new career, and
Nice.
I've withdrawn from a lot of my community services, and now I'm more focused on being at home with my wife and focusing on my
How's your
son. He's doing pretty good.
Good.
Still a lot of work to be done, but he's doing better.
Excellent.
So yeah, I mean, after the last 2 years that I've had, which I was, I mean, everybody can understand how busy I was, I just, with school, podcasting, writing, publishing, and all the other stuff I was doing in my local community, it was taking me out of my house, 5 nights, 6 nights a week. And it's like, no, my wife deserves her husband home, and to have a husband that's focused on the family. And that's what I decided to do. So I kind of broke away from everything so I can spend time with her and my son, and focusing more on my life rather than focusing on things outside of my life.
Right.
And that's been immeasurably a beautiful experience to have. I like my wife a lot, so yeah, I've just been focusing on that, on my family. Yeah, focusing on my career, which has been really great. It's really taking off, and that's doing really well moving forward in that. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. It's just really focusing on family and career. Doing little things like this here and there.
I know there is someone that I knew of, and just listen to a podcast. When you get a chance, look up Martha Nussbaum.
Okay.
She's a University of Chicago, and there are actually a couple female interesting philosophers. This woman is very interesting. And,
what's her name?
Martha Nussbaum, Nussbaum. She just wrote a book recently about animals. And the reason I'm thinking of it is when I was a junior in college, I took a philosophy class, and one of the books I read was Why Animals Matter. It was about animal rights, and she has just written a book on that topic. She's kind of like a moral / political philosopher. I just find her fascinating.
Interesting. Yeah, I've actually heard of that book. I have not read it.
Right.
I didn't know who the author was, but I have heard the name of that book before. So
yeah, and I'm not
it.
PETA necessarily, but some very interesting arguments that you can actually use when you start talking human rights. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, I was the crappy thing about my job now, my career, is that I work in an area where I'm not permitted to have my phone. So I don't get to listen to books as much as I used to, and I'm trying to find time to read more. But man, it's just
don't worry about it.
It's been slow going.
You know what? To be honest with you, don't feel bad. I read more. I probably read more in the last 6 years than I've read. I've always been a reader, but I've gotten to do deep dives over the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
So, but there are a couple short articles about her. She's just fascinating to me.
Yeah. I did take my son out of the public school system, so there's a difference there. Putting him into a military school. Yeah, putting him into a military academy.
What's the emphasis? Army, Navy, Air Force?
I probably shouldn't disclose that online.
Oh, don't worry about it. I did Army ROTC. I had an Army ROTC scholarship and wound up in the Navy. Because the Navy suited my personality more. I'm a shoot from the hip, solve problems in the now. I don't like learning, life lessons from a book unless I can employ them. So whether I like it or not, I'm typical American.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I've been up to. Thanks for having me on, Charles.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for coming on. It's really great talking to you again, and to Stanley as well. Yeah, so I think this would be a good place to draw the conversation to close. So any closing thoughts, Stanley, Steve, before I give mine, and then we're done?
No, I had a good time. That's my closing thought.
Yeah, none for me. Not at the moment.
All right. So for me, just to recap, I think that I think if I want to go back to how I got into American politics and my impressions of African American, say, voting patterns, right? I was very, very critical. I was like, oh, yeah, why African Americans always voting Democrats? I don't understand it. Just sold to one party. And I'm beginning to understand why. I'm beginning to see that it sort of makes sense. I'm seeing the sense behind it, right? Then they're not crazy. They're not just doing it arbitrarily. And I feel sorry for Black conservatives because they have to just sit there and take this rubbish all the time from people that they share the same political party with, right? And I've seen a lot of them every now and then make some complaints on Twitter and all that. But it just keeps happening and happening and happening. For people who are you're supposed to share the same political ideology with, to resort to stereotypes about Black people all the time, there's a disagreement. It seems so hostile. It seems like you're not really, really welcome. Like Vivek was told by Ankota, right? It seems like you're just being tolerated, but if push comes to shove, then you've got to get out, right? So I see that, and it's worrying. It's worrying, but I think I'm just gaining a better understanding of the way things work in the US, and my views will keep evolving as I gain more information. So yeah.
Well, there's 2 books that I'll drop into your Discord, into the DM. You remember the book, The Loneliness of the Black Republican?
Yeah, I've heard of that book.
That is a very serious book you gotta read. The Black woman, I can't remember her name, but she's a serious thinker. Though the book to me was kind of neutral, but it's a good history book. And then the other thing, second book, and I haven't gotten around to reading it, and I may not. Glenn Lowry's biography or autobiography just dropped.
Yeah.
So he's on the trail promoting it, and I'm not sure that. I've seen a couple short interviews where he's talking about it, and to be honest, if I read it, it'll be an afterthought.
Why? Why?
I'm kind of just Glenn Lowry. I don't know. He's more partisan. There are Black conservatives that I've never thought Glenn was that deep. He is partisan. He's like Clarence Thomas. It's like,
yeah,
I vote Republican because I'm Republican. He's that kind of guy. One of Glenn Lowry's mentors was a guy named Stanley Crouch, Crouch.
Mm.
You should read Stanley Crouch. He was a jazz critic and just kind of a culture writer, and he was a mentor to Lowry. Stanley Crouch is immensely more interesting than Glenn Lowry, and definitely more interesting than McWhorter. There are actually black conservatives that are smart and are relevant.
Yeah.
Glenn Lowry's just not one of them.
So when in my Glenn Lowry days, when I was so into Glenn Lowry, when my wife was pregnant, I told my wife, "Oh, if it was a boy, we're going to name him Glenn." Turns out it was a girl, and that's how I got to that bullet. I was going to be looking at my son now. I'm going like, "What the fuck did I do?" Right? So,
dude, don't. It's an education process. Look, you'll never know everything about American politics. Shoot, I don't know about politics in Idaho. It's the one interesting thing about America is that there are 50 different ways of doing politics, and then add on top of that federal politics. It's a smorgasbord.
So for me, I find it incredibly frustrating that for a guy who is that intelligent to be that partisan. I mean, to be that unnuanced, right? I had to comment on one of his tweets the other day. I was like, respectfully, Professor Lowry, you've been saying the same thing with John for 10
my Lord, you
years
didn't
now,
say that.
and I did, and it's at
my
this point
Lord.
it's getting boring, right? It's quite boring. So it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. The same race talk. Or black people need to do better. Black people need to with his the way he's always very intense, saying all those things. And I'm like, there are other issues that you could actually talk about. This is not just a one-way street. I understand that Black America has a lot of things to work on themselves about, but there are other issues, there are other legitimate issues that Black America is facing that you never seem to address. You never seem to comment on. You never seem to, take up at all. So it just shows how very partisan, and I know he got a Vivek moment with what's his name, what's that Indian guy years ago when he turned
Dinesh D'Souza.
Dinesh D'Souza. Yeah, he did get his own Vivek moment with Dinesh D'Souza, but
he and D'Souza clashed.
Yeah.
But that was the last heroism.
So I don't know, I'm not even that old, but I know I'm not going to.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I don't know if he's doing it for money. I don't know if he's doing it for. I really don't
know. At risk of dude, I don't want to think I'm old, but my son looks at me sometimes, and I just can feel he's not doing it physically, but I look in his eyes and I see in his brain, he's shaking his head. What is this old man talking about? and that's what Glenn Lowry's doing. There are actually serious young black conservatives, male and female, that plenty enough for them to disagree with, or for you to disagree with, but I think they're more grounded in reality. I don't care what anyone says, and the non is the worst about how smart Glenn Lowry's not well read, and if he is, he's like an economist. He read the words, he gets the gist, but he doesn't think about. He thinks like a numbers guy. It's all cost benefit. And honestly, economists make the worst social critics. Even Paul Krugman, economists are horrible when it cost benefit should not be first things in how you measure problems.
Yeah.
And Glenn, he's a great economist. He's not a good social scientist.
Yeah, I think so too. Anyway, thank you very much, Stanley.
Yes, sir. And I'll drop a couple books. Read them when you get time. But I do think the loneliness of the Black Republican, it literally traces
I think I'll start with that one.
blacks in the Republican Party through the 60s, into the 70s, and up to the present. So it'll be interesting. All right.
Yeah. Like,
enjoy
guys,
it, Charles.
Coming to the stream today. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in another live stream. It's bye for now.